o'clock now, and if you haven't been joining us every week, and you might be wondering where Vidyamala is, she's doing a solitary retreat a few miles away from where she lives, and she was only able to start it last week instead of, she was due to start 3 weeks before, 4 weeks before, but for various reasons she had to start late. But she's very happy where she is, and she's got a whole month of spending time on her own, just reflecting, practicing meditation, mindfulness, and I believe she's very, very happy. In fact, I know she's very happy because she's told me so, and really enjoying it so far. And I'll be here this week, probably next week, and then I'm a bit away also for a bit of a holiday after that. And Vidyamala will be back with you possibly the first week in July, at least the second week, so not quite sure when. So this evening in this space to breathe, I thought we'd just say a little bit about images and symbols and so on, because they usually play a very important part in people developing mindfulness and practicing meditation as well. And in India, particularly Japan and China, one of the symbols that's really interesting to reflect on, or just I'd like to just say a few words about it, is the symbol of the lotus flower. And of course, the lotus grows in a pond, and usually it's a sort of muddy pond. It's not a clean, rock-filled pond. It needs soil to grow. So the lotus has its roots in the dark, murky bottom of a pond. And but it is attracted to the light, and it grows upwards, the plant, and then it buds. It actually comes right out of the water, unlike an English water lily floats on the water, but the lotus actually comes right out. And then it just spreads itself, opens up into this wonderful, beautiful, amazing flower. And if you just think about the symbolism of that lotus, the whole kind of drama of it growing in the depths, in the dark, and then finding its way up into the sunlight, where there's a kind of awakening, and the flower sort of bursts into a new life. It's still connected very much. It can't survive actually without having its roots in the mud, in the all that mud, dark. I don't even want to think about what's in the mud, but it has its roots in that. And this is often seen as a kind of an analogy of human beings, that we might start off our journey in the kind of darkness, in the difficult, murky sort of place. We may start off in a dark, murky sort of place where there's a lot of suffering, a lot of difficulties, possibly physical health some people have, and almost always there goes a certain amount of mental health with that. It's very difficult to live with chronic pain, and people suffer from depression and so on. And that you could see that as being a bit like the murky, dark side. And I mean, at Breathworks, we really encourage people to accept that's what's there. That's a given. But it's as though even out of that dark place, something very, very beautiful can emerge. And I think I've done this before on a Tuesday night when I've took it over. It's just one of the people you can see this most obviously with, if you get to know her, if you have the opportunity to read her books and listen to Vidyamala. Well, I think most of you have seen her in this sort of event. she's an extremely positive, bright person, yet she lives with chronic pain the whole time, quite severe pain. And more recently, she's sort of had some other difficulties, a bit more pain. But it really hasn't stopped her from becoming this beautiful lotus flower. I mean, I might be a bit, you might sound as though I'm a bit biased because I actually am married to her. But quite honestly, I've just been watching her over 20 years. I cannot understand her really, how she can be so amazingly positive whilst she's having to live with such difficulties. Before I met her, I didn't even know there was chronic pain. I didn't know that people lived with pain all the time. And it was just like a new concept to me. I just knew about acute pain that you get when you have an accident or headache or toothache. I get migraines, but they're sometimes a bit chronic, but they can be treated and they go away. So I'm pain-free a lot of the time, most of the time. And yet, Vidyamala, she's been some pretty dark places in her journey to move towards accepting the pain, because it's not the sort of thing you would naturally want to do, accept your pain. And she had to kind of really learn how to do that in a very compassionate way, treating her body kindly. And then something has just grown out of all that difficulty, all that adversity that she's had in her life and still continues to have. And all the time she's being creative. She's already thinking about another book, and different ways of reaching out to people, contacting people, and sharing her experience as someone who lives with a lot of suffering and actually has a life that is, well, she feels is really worth living. She's very, very creative. She's helping people all over the world. And it's good to remember that sometimes when we're in those dark places, sometimes it's as though our attention, using the image of a lotus, is that we could either be above the water in the sunlight and sort of feel as though we're opening and life is becoming kind of brighter, better in a sense, more beautiful, but we're attached to the roots. Our roots are deep down there in the darkness, and sometimes we're actually down there in the roots. We kind of, on those days when we have a flare-up or difficulties, we then know what life, life isn't always fun, and it's not happiness. It's not the nature of life. Life has its ups and downs for every single human being. And sometimes the sort of power of the suffering in the roots can produce, if we allow it to, if we go about it in the right way, amazing sort of opportunities. It's not that one would want to give people suffering so they get these opportunities, but if you happen to have those difficulties, it's worthwhile just reflecting on that a bit, that you are able to live your life and hopefully through the practice of mindfulness rise up above it, and you don't have to add to that suffering, even though it's not, in many cases it's not possible to remove that, for the suffering that we have, particularly physical pain that's chronic. And so mindfulness gives us this wonderful opportunity to kind of have a sense of rising up out of the pond, as it were, into the air, into the sunlight. And this is probably the most powerful place to experience this is in meditation, is if you can allow yourself in meditation to have a sense of really, like, first of all, dropping down so that you're accepting that your roots are down in something that's not particularly pleasant, but you're not trying to just fly away from it. You're kind of rooted there. And then from all that growing sort of the energy that comes, because it requires a certain degree of courage, that one needs courage to be able to face adversity in that sort of way. And it's a bit like giving yourself a pat on the back, I think, thinking, well, if you can do that, you are a very courageous person. You have a lot of courage, you're able to do it. When I was meditating this morning, I had this sort of sense. I mean, I've been meditating for a long time, many, many years. And I had this sense that when you kind of get into what I called the groove last week, this sort of a musical term, kind of like you get in the zone, or you kind of, you feel like you're able to get the hang of it. It's a bit like being lifted off and going upwards. A couple of weeks ago, on the Malvern, there's some hills nearby where I live, they're quite well known in the UK, called the Malvern Hills. And in the summer, on a hot day, you often see paragliders up there. And I was walking up there one day. It was quite windy and cold, actually, but there was a young man up there, and I just started talking to him, and he was a paraglider. And I asked him about paragliding. He offered to teach me, actually. I did say I'm 72. I don't think I'll do it in this life, but he was very keen that I should perhaps give it a go. But one of the things I liked watching about paragliders, with this simple little bit of equipment, they don't even, apparently according to him, they don't even need to take off from a particularly high spot. But the trick is to catch the thermals that are rising up. And then you just get this sense of being lifted up. You see them just going up. Sometimes they're way up in the clouds above here. And this guy told me they sometimes even fly right down to the south coast. They can get up so high. And that's probably about 100 miles or more. And I thought it was a great thing to think about in meditation. Not exactly think about it, but just having that sense of being like on a paraglider. I don't recommend this if you've got vertigo. This might not quite work for you, but it's a bit like you're in control. You can't fall. Or you can imagine yourself as a bird that is natural to fly. But this sense of being lifted, it's as though you can't, with a paraglider, you can't flap your wings and fly like a bird can, although birds do have to fall before they can fly when they're learning to fly. And it's something to just watch out for when you're meditating. It's it's a different way of talking about being in the groove. It's just trying to notice these moments where you feel, you can kind of let go, and you may even feel like your body wants to be lifted. It's when you get into this zone, you actually can feel you're wanting to sit up more vertically, because it's as though energy is lifting you. So I'd just like to invite you to have a watch for that again this evening, and just when we meditate, and see if that works for you, and then you could share your experiences with us at the end, hopefully. Just you could put something in the chat box when we finish. So I better shut up now and get on with the meditation. And it's good to use these kind of reflections and images when you meditate, because just sitting trying to be aware of your breathing can get a little bit uninteresting for a while. But we'll use the breath as something it's a bit like standing on the hill waiting for the wind to lift us in a paraglider, or if you're going to take off as a bird or something. So you find your own particular metaphor that works for you, and let's give it a go. So let's just find that more comfortable, as comfortable as we can be, posture where we can feel well balanced, if we can. Some of us may need to lean back, but gradually you may feel a longing to just want to be vertical, and as though the energy is going to flow upwards through your body, from the roots of your being. From the difficulties that you may have, you don't need to over-focus on them, you don't need to push them away. And this lifting up isn't a way of avoiding them and getting away from them, although in a sense that's what happens to some degree. They go in the background, the difficulties, the pain can go into the background to some degree. And you have this sense of focusing on the breath, noticing the weight of the body, the sensations in the body, giving in to gravity. So you're not wanting the body to float away. It's more like your imagination, your mind, your awareness kind of becomes lighter, broader, more expansive. At the same time, there's a kind of focusing on your breath as it comes in, the sensations of the breath, the movement in the body somewhere as you breathe in and out. And then just resting with that, resting in that space, with that rhythm that comes with breathing. And just as we begin this meditation, just remember that I can see there are 43 people participating in Zoom. There's a live stream going to YouTube, I think, so there'll be more people. And that's quite a lot of us spread around the world, most of us in the Northern Hemisphere, different time zones. And we're here because we're a community. We like being together. So I assume we're all here because we want to be here together, not just being here alone. And even that can give us a sense of lift, that we're all breathing. We're probably all having thoughts popping into our mind, sometimes just like a load of chatter. Sometimes it can get a little bit impatient with the chatter. We want it to stop. So it's not a question of trying to stop the chatter. It's just more a case of refocusing and finding interest in being focused and looking out for a sense of dropping deeper or lifting up, sort of opposite metaphors in a way, but it's as though things come together to a center. And you may find the chatter dies down. It's more interesting to become aware, just aware of what's happening right now. And the easiest way to do that is by focusing, first of all, upon our breathing. We're in our body, we're in the present moment, we're not in the future or the past, we're just being now for the time being. Although thinking is essential for our ability to function in the world, we can also have an experience where thinking starts to slow down, to dissipate. And we may have a sense of joy, kind of joy you would have if you saw something very beautiful that was uplifting. You're not trying to fly away, but you're allowing your mind to lift. You can sometimes feel it in the body, a sense of energy flowing upwards, lifting. Simply by focusing, feeling the breath flowing in and flowing out. A bit like we just become breathing. We're not thinking about breathing, we are simply the breath, the breathing process. if you've got no feeling at all of this idea of lift or coming together, don't worry about it, because that would just be more thoughts. And you may just for a moment, a second, have a sense of, it's almost like going, just letting go, and then just being aware of that experience. You don't need to think too much about it, but just think, oh yeah, I just had that experience. And so it's a way of kind of a positive feedback loop where you know what it feels like, even if it's just momentarily. One moment added to another moment, added to another moment, can increase the duration. But without working hard at it, just looking for almost like enjoyment of breathing, letting things go. This is like just letting go of the weight of life. The burden, responsibility, just for a short time. A process that allows us to resource ourselves. We're all resourcing, we're all refilling, topping up right across the world, top of the world, or the northern hemisphere. How wonderful. About 50 of us that we know of here at this moment. And we don't know how we're influencing one another. It's not really possible to prove or disprove it, so we could just believe that we are. We can feel it sometimes. So if we're having difficulty with the focusing, bringing our mind to one point gently, maybe other people doing it is helping us. Letting the goodwill of everyone practicing at this moment affect us. we find ourselves wandering off, caught up with thoughts or feelings. Of course, we could continue to stay with them if we want, or we could bring our mind back to the sensations of our breath, of breathing. If there's any, what we could call emotionally charged thoughts or feelings, or strong feelings, maybe you could just breathe with them. Just don't even try to change them, stop them, or let them go. Just breathe with them. Just breathe, thinking, and just aware that you're breathing in and you're breathing out and you're thinking this, you're thinking that, but you're breathing in and you're breathing out. If the thoughts can just dissipate by recognizing the thinking that's taking place, that's usually enough to let it fade. Such a very light effort required to meditate, to develop mindfulness in this way. Maybe just for the last couple of minutes we could think of one another. You could even begin to open your eyes if you've got them closed, and kind of with a gentle focus, just noticing faces on the screen in gallery view. Just carry on breathing with those people you can see. Or just keep your eyes closed and people will see you. A few dozen people connected, not just through the internet, but connected, knowing that we're all just sitting here breathing together. Okay, and then it's more or less, it's almost 7:30. You could just perhaps start moving a little bit. If you feel like you floated away, coming back, just maybe just sort of checking in with yourself what happened then, whether there was any moments when you felt kind of in the zone or the groove or not, or if you felt sleepy or tired. Whatever happens, it's always different every time we meditate. Sometimes there's a habit we get into, but things can change, can improve. If you want to share any comments in the chat box, I'll do my best to read them out. I think there's some people here who have who are compromised. They can't see the chat box and can't have it read out to them if I'm talking. So I'll just try and read them out. I'm sorry if you can hear others at Marianne. Anyway, How was that? I loved your guidance. Today was really heady, and this changed during the meditation. I even floated a little. Wonderful. Love and kindness to everyone. Very calming and centering. Thank you very much for the meditation. Thanks to everyone. Lovely, relaxing meditation. Thank you all for being here. A wonderful lifting practice. That was so relaxing. Thank you, Sana and all. Beautiful images, really helpful. I love this community. Great. Louise. Lynn, thank you, Sona. Feeling very relaxed. And relaxing, calming, and coming back to the breath gently with thoughts still in the background. I love this community too. Okay, so thank you for the practice today. I sat rather than lying on the floor and felt more present. Good. I will carry the image of the lotus flower with me. Thank you so much. Today reminded me of some of the first experiences I had at Mana in New Zealand years ago. Just like to say that Vidyamala and I met Ed nearly 20 years ago, 15 years ago in New Zealand, and he's still here today. So it's wonderful. So I could just unmute you all now, and if I can, and you can all talk. I have to mute everyone first, and then see if I can unmute you. Okay, I can't unmute you. You have to unmute yourself if you can, and you can just say goodbye if you want to say something.
Bye, Sona.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
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 Bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Have a good evening or a good day.
Thanks, Sona. Bye,
Thank
everyone.
Bye.
Bye, Sona. Good to see you today.
Yeah, and to you, Ed. Bye-bye.
Have a good night.
What did he say?
Thank you. Okay, I think I'm going to close the room now. So good night. Bye, everyone.